In this lesson, you'll be using the pen tool and the shape tools to recreate a logo based on an image that we will import into the file here. So I'll just start by starting a new file, and I'll go with the ActionScript 3 format. Click on that and just use the default settings. And you should have downloaded an image for this exercise, and I'm just going to go and import that, and I'll import it directly to the stage. I do have the option to import it to library, but in this case I want to put it directly on the stage. So import to stage, and you should have downloaded two images. We're going to use the one called crush.jpg. Click open, and it's no coincidence it happens to have been pre-sized to fit in this image size. So I'm simply going to do a quick save as to my desktop right now to save the file, and I'll just call this pen tool 01 and save that. And the idea here is this imported image is simply going to serve as a thing to trace by. So we're going to create our actual drawing on another layer, or a couple of layers if you like. But for now I'm simply going to lock this layer, and if you look in the layers down here, there's a lock column, and if I click on that, I can no longer grab that or affect it. Now the nice thing about a placed image is that I can use the sample tool to derive colors, so I'm going to do that to establish a few colors here. So let's just rename that layer, and we'll call it Tracer. And I will just save the file quickly, and I'll create another layer. So we just add new layer here, and I'll call this one Logo. And we're only working in one frame right now in our timeline, so I'll just go to that frame, and I will zoom up. The keyboard command for zooming up and down is Command plus and minus on the Mac, or Control plus and minus on the PC. So I'm going to hit Command plus rather. And the other useful tool for navigating around my image area is the space bar, and I can use that anytime to drag my image and reposition it within the stage area. Now up here I'll just remind you, you can always go fit to window to see everything, that I will zoom up again and zoom in over here. I'm going to start by, actually I'll zoom out a little bit here to talk about strategies. I'm going to look at this and try to think logically, what is stacked on top of what? So if I look at this logically, there's a square orange plate, an orange box in the back, and I can just simply create an orange box and then draw things on top of that. I'm looking at this Crush logo here with this big key line around it. I would tend to probably draw the shape of the key line and fill it with green, and then come back in on top of that and draw the white areas so that it will have sharp corners. And then basically the same thing here. It'd be the white key line with the, the green key line with the white fill, then the orange shape, and then the yellow shape. So let's just start with the letter C and R, I guess. Let me zoom up here, and maybe I'll just start with the R. Now I can resize my display area and so on. And I'll start, I'm not going to do the whole thing, I'm just going to do the, let's say the C and the R. So if I go with my eyedropper tool and try to select the green, this green is a little motley, but I'll start with a green anyway. And actually that one looks okay. I can always change it later. And I will use the pen tool. So again, this exercise, I'm limiting you to using the pen tool or one of these other shape tools. I don't want you to use the brush tool or the pencil tool or anything else. Just the pen tool and these three shape tools to get the job done. I will say that the pen tool by far is the most accurate drawing tool still to this day. And I'll just use a different color. I'll just use red, and the reason I'm going to use that is that it's going to be easy to see against the green. I'm going to leave the stroke size at 1, and the idea here is just to go around the edge, the outer edge, and draw. So like I said, I'm just going to do the C and the R. So I'll start at a corner, and I'm going to actually drag this up a little bit, and then I'll click on the next point. Now the next point is going to be a curve point, so I will click and drag, and then I can see that line getting generated, and I'll just keep dragging and dragging, even if it looks like I'm going beyond the area here that I can see. I'll drag it until that line is as close as I can get to the curve that I'm trying to imitate. So I've got 2 points right now, and you can see it with the thin red line. Now I'm going to click over here where the C would generally end, and click and drag away here until that shape comes close. Now I'm going to zoom out, Command minus here, so that I can access this handle. A little shortcut for editing on the fly. Now I can always return and edit with my sub-selection tool, but I'm going to go in right now and hit my Command key, which gives me the little white arrow, and it allows me to make an adjustment while my line is still alive. And you see here, I've brought it in much tighter. Now I might come back a little later and refine it even more at a zoomed up level. Now on the PC, that would be, I believe that would be the Control key. Now I'm going to go in, I'll zoom up again, and what I want to do is create a straight line coming off a curve. And the way we do that is we simply click on that last anchor point, which deletes the second handle, which allows for the next click to be a straight line. Because remember, clicking to another click gives you a straight line. Clicking and dragging generates a curve. So I'll just click over here, straight line, and I'll click up here again to just before where the curve starts. And then to initiate a curve, I could simply click here and drag, and that might very well work, but I also have the option of clicking on this anchor point and dragging out a short handle. Now the rule of thumb for curves is that the handle should come out about 1/3 of the way straight out in the direction of the curve. Now here I will click and drag. You can see here that it pretty well nails it. So I'll click here to end that curved line, and pretending like it's only the C and the R, I will come out here and click to create a straight line, spacebar down, move my page down a bit, click to get that other straight line, and the rest are actually straight lines here. Boom and boom. Now I will save this. So there are a few options in approaching this, but I think I'll simply draw this inner line, sort of the hole in the donut. Then I'll fill that in with the green and get rid of the stroke. So I'll just click on the pen tool to start a new line, and then I'll just come in here, click for the straight lines, and I'll click and drag out to initiate a curve. And really, the fewer the points, the better. So I always try to kind of go to the other side of the curve and drag it and see if I can get it going. And it looks like I pretty well have it there. Then I'll click, but I'll also drag when I pull this out so that it gives me a handle to work with, just in case I need to make some fine-tuning adjustments. But that's looking pretty good, actually. And maybe now I'll go in and fill that with the bucket tool. So I'll grab the bucket tool here and fill it with the green. And there we go. And if I go in with my selection tool and double click on that stroke, I can just delete it, and I'll do the same thing for the inner stroke. Now you're probably wondering, okay, I can't see the white line. Well, I'm going to show you something cool. It's new to Animate. If you see under here, we have the visibility icon, the hide show layers. If I click with the shift key down, it suddenly becomes transparent. Now if I right click on that transparent icon and go to properties, I can actually affect how transparent it will be with this slider. So I'm going to leave it at 50, but again, when you set it to transparent, which is shift clicking the icon, I can shift click to go back to opaque. Shift clicking the icon, I can also right click it to access the properties. You can't see it, it's out of the screen here, but if I click on properties in that menu, it pops up. And under transparent, I can change this number by either typing or just grabbing the slider. Now I'm going to cancel to leave it at 50. So this is good enough for me to be able to see through here. And I have another option to consider at this point. Do I want to draw directly on this shape, or do I want to go to another layer and draw it there? I think I'm going to create a new layer, and I'll call it Logo 2. And this way I can keep them separated, but I'll go back to my pen tool. I'll leave it set to the red stroke for now, which I'll ultimately change in the same method, but let's just do the R to kind of get the point home here. It's mostly straight lines, so I'll start at a corner, click, click, and I guess you don't need to hear me say the word click. Now at this point I will click and drag to initiate a handle for a curve, and then maybe I'll click and drag here as well so that I have another handle. And if I go and zoom in here, I'll get a better view of what's happening. Now I can go in with my command key and just tweak that line while I'm up here. I can also actually grab the anchor point and move it. So here I'm happy. I'm going to click it to end that curve and go into a straight line. And then I click and drag to initiate a handle, spacebar, and I'll go to the other end of the curve and try to just drag that out and get it in 2 points if I can. And I guess I could pull this down a little bit here. And I can just adjust that a little bit. Whoops, I missed it. Let me just click on there. There we go. And again, I'll click here to end the curve. I'll zoom out now. And I just need to connect these last 2 lines. And there is the shape for the white. So I'll just go into my bucket tool. I'll actually just establish white right away. Fill it with white. Then go with my selection tool, double click on the stroke, and just delete it. And there we go. Let me just zoom out here. And if I was to hide the tracer, you could see what we have here. Now I can turn off this transparency to get a full view. I'll just shift click on there, and that's the green with the white. I'll just turn this back on. Now to get this orange slug here, I'll actually create another layer for that too, and then I'll drag it down. You can restack the order of your layers. I'll call it orange back. There we go. And I'll drag that layer below like so. I'll go with my sample tool, sample that orange. Then go to my rectangular marquee tool and just draw that orange box. And there we go. It's as simple as that. And if I turn off that transparency, that's what I have so far. And I can always just turn that background off until I'm finished drawing, or I can go and make it translucent just like that. I really like the new transparency feature. This is new to Animate, and it really does help when you're drawing things on multiple layers. Prudent to save at this point. And I'll just say go ahead and finish this off and use the layers strategically as you wish. One thing I didn't bring up, maybe I'll bring it up right now before we conclude here, is I've been drawing in the merge mode. I could also draw in object mode, which would make things a little more lending themselves to be drawn on one layer. Let me just show you here. I'll go up to logo layer 2. And if I was to draw a new shape, I just select, I'll just do it with a rectangle for now. Actually, I'll do it with an oval. And down here is where I set the object drawing mode. And if I click here and draw over top of other things, when I go to select it, it is still its own object and it will not merge For example, let me just bring the point home here. I'll use the oval tool again. I'll just change the fill color here to a different color. And I'll turn off the object drawing mode, which means it's now in merge mode. I'll draw it over here for now. Then I'll select it by double clicking or triple clicking. If I was to bring it over top of the white R that happens to be on the same layer and let it go by deselecting, if I double click it again, move it, you can see that it actually merged and took a bite out of it when I moved that. So let me undo a couple of steps here and just delete that. So again, yet another option in how to draw using the object drawing mode where things will stack and not merge together. Let me just delete this and save my file. So again, I want you to do the whole logo here and just show it to me when you're finished, and then I'll mark it. And that's your drawing assignment for today.